Hello there, and welcome to Deep Sleep Seas. I'm so glad you found your way here tonight. Perhaps you've had a long day, or maybe you're the kind of person who finds comfort in the gentle rhythms of the ocean and the ancient creatures that call it home. Either way, tonight is for you. You have nothing to do but rest. Let your breathing slow, your muscles soften, and your mind drift like a current carrying you somewhere peaceful. Because tonight we're joining some of the ocean's most patient travelers, the sea turtles. These remarkable beings have been gliding through our waters for over 110 million years. They swam alongside dinosaurs. They witnessed the rise and fall of entire ecosystems. And through it all, through extinctions and ice ages and the slow continental drift of land masses, they persisted, quietly, steadily, moving through the blue with an unhurried grace that speaks of wisdom older than mountains. Tonight you'll hear of their journeys across entire oceans, guided by magnetic fields we cannot see. You'll learn how they sleep beneath the waves, their hearts beating just once every 9 minutes. You'll discover the mystery of their long lives, their patient decades of growth, and the incredible journey each tiny hatchling must make from sand to sea. Some of what you hear may surprise you. Other facts might simply wrap around you like warm water, soothing and familiar. And if these gentle explorations help you unwind or give you a quiet way to let go of your day, consider liking and subscribing to the channel. It helps others find their way here too, one peaceful soul at a time. Now let's begin. Let the tides carry you away. Sea turtles are among the oldest creatures still swimming in our oceans. They have existed for more than 110 million years, which means they were here long before the world as we know it took shape. When the first sea turtles emerged, the continents were arranged differently. Flowering plants had only just begun to appear on land, and roaming those ancient shores and shallow seas were dinosaurs, massive and diverse, the undisputed rulers of their time. For 45 million years, sea turtles and dinosaurs shared the planet. They coexisted in an era we can barely imagine, where the ocean teemed with giant marine reptiles, where pterosaurs soared above the waves, and where the very air felt different, heavier with moisture and possibility. Sea turtles swam through those prehistoric waters, adapting, surviving, learning the currents and the tides in ways that would serve them for eons to come. And then, 65 million years ago, everything changed. A massive asteroid struck the Earth, triggering an extinction event so catastrophic that it wiped out roughly 75% of all species on the planet. The dinosaurs vanished. The giant marine reptiles disappeared. The world as it had been for millions of years came to an abrupt and fiery end. But sea turtles survived. Somehow, through mechanisms we're still trying to fully understand, they made it through that dark time when ash filled the skies and temperatures plummeted and the food chains collapsed. Perhaps their ability to slow their metabolism helped. Perhaps their diverse diet allowed them to find sustenance when other creatures starved. Or perhaps they were simply in the right place at the right time, riding out the storm in pockets of the ocean that remained habitable. Whatever the reason, they endured. And when the dust settled and the world began to rebuild itself, sea turtles were still there, still gliding through the blue, still laying their eggs on moonlit beaches. The sea turtles we see today evolved around 110 million years ago, and remarkably, they have changed very little since then. Their basic body plan, their life cycle, their behaviors, all of these have remained largely the same across countless millennia. They are living fossils in the truest sense, creatures who found a form that worked and saw no reason to abandon it. There are 7 species of sea turtle alive today, each one a variation on an ancient theme. 6 of them have hard shells, sturdy carapaces made of bony plates covered in keratin, the same material that makes up our fingernails. These belong to the family Chelonidae and include the green turtle, the loggerhead, the hawksbill, the olive ridley, the Kemp's ridley, and the flatback. The 7th species stands apart. The leatherback turtle, sole member of the family Dermoxylidae, lacks a hard shell entirely. Instead, its carapace is made of thick, leathery skin, reinforced with thousands of tiny bone fragments, giving it a flexibility and streamlined form unlike any other turtle. Each species has carved out its own niche in the ocean's vast expanse. Some prefer tropical reefs, others roam the open sea, some travel thousands of miles each year, while others stay relatively close to home. But all of them share certain characteristics. certain rhythms of life that connect them across species and across oceans. They all breathe air, yet spend nearly their entire lives underwater. They all return to land only to nest, the females dragging themselves up sandy beaches to lay their eggs in the same general area where they themselves hatched decades before. They all begin their lives as tiny vulnerable hatchlings, scrambling desperately toward the surf, and they all move through the world with a slowness, a patience, that feels almost meditative to witness. In Hawaiian culture, green sea turtles are known as honu and are considered symbols of good luck, endurance, and long life. In many coastal communities around the world, sea turtles feature prominently in mythology and folklore, often portrayed as wise, ancient beings who carry the weight of the ocean's memory on their backs. There's something about them that captures our imagination, something in the way they move so deliberately, so peacefully, that makes us pause and consider a different pace of existence. They are not loud creatures. They do not call attention to themselves. They simply exist, drifting through kelp forests and coral gardens, surfacing every so often for a breath of air, then sinking back down into the quiet blue. And in that quiet, there is something profoundly calming, something that reminds us that not everything in nature needs to be fast or flashy to be magnificent. Tonight, as you rest, imagine yourself drifting alongside one of these ancient mariners. Picture the way sunlight filters down through clear water, creating shifting patterns of light and shadow on the sandy bottom far below. Feel the gentle resistance of the water as you glide forward, propelled by slow, steady strokes of powerful flippers. There is no hurry. There is nowhere you need to be, just the endless blue, the soft current, and the ancient rhythm of the sea turtle's journey. There are 7 distinct species of sea turtle, each with its own appearance, its own preferences, its own story etched across millions of years of evolution. Let's meet them, one by one, and learn what makes each of these ocean wanderers unique. The green sea turtle, named not for the color of its shell but for the greenish hue of its fat, is one of the largest and most widely distributed. An adult green turtle can weigh between 65 and 130 kilograms, with a carapace measuring between 1 and 1.2 meters long. Their shells display a beautiful array of colors: dark brown, olive, yellow, black, and various shades of green, each individual marked with its own unique pattern. Unlike most other sea turtles, adult green turtles are almost entirely herbivorous, grazing on seagrasses and algae, like underwater cattle. This diet is unusual among sea turtles and reflects the green turtle's specialized role in marine ecosystems. By keeping seagrass beds cropped and healthy, they maintain habitats that countless other species depend upon. They are gentle grazers, moving slowly through underwater meadows, taking their time, never in a rush. The loggerhead sea turtle is named for its relatively large head, which houses powerful jaw muscles capable of crushing hard-shelled prey like conchs, whelks, and crabs. Loggerheads are robust and strong, with reddish-brown shells and a somewhat stocky build compared to other sea turtles. They can grow quite large, with some adults weighing over 150 kilograms. These turtles are found in temperate and tropical waters around the world, and they're known for their long migrations. Some loggerheads travel thousands of kilometers between their feeding grounds and nesting beaches, crossing entire ocean basins with a determination that seems almost impossible for such slow-moving creatures. Yet they do it, year after year, guided by instincts and magnetic maps we're only beginning to understand. The hawksbill sea turtle is perhaps the most beautiful of all sea turtles, with a shell that displays overlapping, colorful scutes in patterns of amber, brown, orange, and gold. These patterns are so striking that hawksbills were once hunted nearly to extinction for their shells, which were used to make jewelry, combs, and other decorative items. Hawksbills have a narrow, pointed beak that gives them their name, and they use this beak to reach into crevices in coral reefs to extract their favorite food, sponges. An adult hawksbill can eat over 500 kilograms of sponges in a year, which is remarkable considering that many sponges contain toxins that would be deadly to other animals. Hawksbills have somehow developed a tolerance to these toxins, allowing them to exploit a food source few other creatures can access. They are reef specialists, rarely venturing far from tropical coral systems, and they move through these intricate underwater landscapes with a grace that seems almost dance-like. The leatherback sea turtle is in a category all its own. It is the largest turtle on Earth, the largest reptile in the world aside from certain crocodilians, and one of the most ancient-looking creatures you'll ever encounter. A full-grown leatherback can weigh anywhere from 250 to over 900 kilograms, with some exceptional individuals exceeding 1,000 kilograms. They can measure 2 meters or more from head to tail. Instead of a hard shell, the leatherback's carapace is composed of thick, oily, leathery skin reinforced with thousands of tiny bones embedded in connective tissue. This gives them flexibility and allows them to dive deeper than any other sea turtle, plunging over 1,000 meters into the dark, cold depths of the open ocean. They do this in search of their primary food, jellyfish and salps, gelatinous drifters that other predators often ignore. Leatherbacks are also among the few reptiles capable of maintaining a body temperature significantly warmer than the surrounding water, allowing them to forage in cold northern and southern seas where other sea turtles cannot venture. The Kemp's Ridley sea turtle is the smallest of all sea turtles, with adults typically reaching only about 30 inches in length and weighing around 40 to 50 kilograms. They are also the most endangered sea turtle species, their population having plummeted dramatically in the 20th century due to egg harvesting and accidental capture in fishing gear. Kemp's Ridleys have a nearly circular shell, olive gray in color, and they are known for their synchronized nesting behavior called arabidas, where thousands of females come ashore to nest at the same time on the same beach. This spectacular phenomenon, once common, is now exceedingly rare, and conservation efforts are working hard to help these turtles recover. They primarily inhabit the Gulf of Mexico and the Atlantic coast of North America, preferring shallow coastal waters with muddy or sandy bottoms. The olive ridley sea turtle is very similar in appearance to the Kemp's Ridley, but is found in tropical regions of the Pacific, Indian, and Southern Atlantic Oceans. Olive ridleys also participate in arabidas, and in some locations, these mass nesting events can involve tens of thousands of turtles arriving over the course of a few nights. Watching an arabida is said to be one of nature's most awe-inspiring spectacles, the beach transforming into a living carpet of nesting turtles, each one digging her nest, laying her eggs, and returning to the sea. Olive ridleys are relatively small, weighing around 45 kilograms, and they have heart-shaped shells with an olive-green coloration. They are generalists in their diet, eating everything from jellyfish to crustaceans to fish eggs. The flatback sea turtle is found only in the waters around Australia and Papua New Guinea, making it the most geographically restricted of all sea turtle species. Flatbacks have a flatter shell than other sea turtles, which gives them their name, and they tend to stay in shallow coastal waters, rarely venturing into the open ocean. Their eggs and hatchlings are notably larger than those of other species, which may give the hatchlings a better chance of survival during their vulnerable early days. Flatbacks are the least studied of all sea turtles, in part because of their limited range, and much of their life history remains a mystery. Each of these 7 species occupies a slightly different niche in the ocean's vast ecosystem. Each has evolved strategies for survival that have served them well for millions of years, and each one moves through the water with that same unhurried grace, that same patient rhythm that defines the sea turtle experience. They are not aggressive animals. They do not compete with each other. They simply coexist, each following its own ancient path through the blue. If you could shrink yourself down and swim among them, you would notice the subtle differences. The way a green turtle's powerful jaws methodically crop seagrass. The way a hawksbill delicately probes a coral crevice with its narrow beak. The way a leatherback glides effortlessly through cold water, its massive flippers propelling it forward with slow, powerful strokes. Each movement is deliberate, each behavior honed over millennia. There is no wasted energy, no unnecessary haste, just the slow, steady pursuit of life's necessities: food, breath, rest, and eventually reproduction. And in that slowness, there is a lesson. A reminder that not everything worth doing needs to be done quickly. That patience is not a weakness, but a form of wisdom. That sometimes the most profound journeys are the ones taken one slow stroke at a time. One of the most remarkable abilities of sea turtles is their capacity to navigate across thousands of kilometers of seemingly featureless ocean. They migrate between feeding grounds and nesting beaches, sometimes crossing entire ocean basins, and somehow they find their way back to the exact beach where they were born decades earlier. How do they do this? How does a creature with a brain roughly the size of a walnut accomplish navigational feats that would challenge the most advanced technology? The answer lies in something we cannot see, Earth's magnetic field. The planet generates a magnetic field that extends far into space, created by the movement of molten iron in its outer core. This field varies in strength and angle across the globe, creating a kind of invisible topography. Magnetic field lines converge at the poles and spread out around the equator. The angle at which these lines intersect the Earth's surface, called the inclination angle, points straight down at the North Pole, runs horizontal at the equator, and points straight up at the South Pole. The intensity of the field also changes from place to place. Together, these variations create unique magnetic signatures at different geographic locations, like invisible landmarks scattered across the ocean. Sea turtles can detect these magnetic signatures. They have what scientists call magnetorship obsession, the ability to sense magnetic fields. Research has shown that sea turtles use Earth's magnetic field in two distinct ways. First, they use it as a compass, allowing them to determine direction and maintain a specific heading as they swim. Second, and more impressively, they use it as a map, allowing them to determine their position and navigate towards specific destinations. This magnetic map is particularly crucial for hatchling sea turtles. When a tiny loggerhead hatches on a beach in Florida, it scrambles into the Atlantic Ocean and begins swimming. Over the next several years, it will complete a massive circular migration around the entire North Atlantic, riding ocean currents in a great loop that takes it past Portugal, down the coast of Africa, across to the Caribbean, and eventually back to North America. This journey, which can span thousands of kilometers, is guided almost entirely by the hatchling's ability to detect regional magnetic fields along the route. Researchers have discovered that young loggerheads have inherited instructions, a kind of magnetic GPS programmed into their genes. When they encounter the magnetic field signature of a certain location, they instinctively adjust their swimming direction to stay on course. For example, when young turtles reach a point near northern Portugal, where cold water from the north threatens to sweep them toward potentially lethal temperatures near Great Britain and Scandinavia, they detect the local magnetic field and respond by turning south, keeping themselves in warmer, safer waters. They've never been taught this. They've never made the journey before. The information is simply there, written into their biology, passed down through countless generations of sea turtles who swam this route before them. As sea turtles age, their use of the magnetic field becomes even more sophisticated. Juvenile and adult turtles appear to learn the magnetic characteristics of the areas where they live, building up a magnetic map in their memory. They can recognize the magnetic signature of their home range and use this information to navigate between different feeding sites or to find their way back after being displaced by storms or currents. Studies have shown that when sea turtles are moved experimentally and exposed to a magnetic field from a different location, they orient themselves in a direction that would take them back toward their home area if they were actually in that location. It's as if they're constantly checking where they are on their magnetic map and adjusting their course accordingly. Perhaps most remarkably, female sea turtles use this magnetic sense to find their way back to their natal beach, the beach where they themselves hatched, to lay their own eggs. This behavior, called natal homing, is one of the most extraordinary navigational feats in the animal kingdom. Imagine being born on a specific beach, scrambling into the ocean as a hatchling, spending the next 20 to 30 years roaming thousands of kilometers away, and then when it's time to reproduce, finding your way back to that exact beach. It's a journey that spans decades and continents, yet female sea turtles accomplish it with remarkable precision. Scientists believe that as hatchlings, sea turtles imprint on the magnetic field signature of their natal beach, storing it in memory. This magnetic address becomes a kind of home coordinate that they carry with them for the rest of their lives. When they reach maturity and it's time to nest, they use their magnetic map sense to navigate back to that magnetic signature. Earth's magnetic field does shift and drift over time, but the changes are gradual enough that sea turtles can apparently compensate. Research has shown that as the magnetic signatures of nesting beaches move, turtle nesting patterns shift correspondingly, following the magnetic landscape as it slowly changes. This magnetic navigation system has important implications for sea turtle conservation. It means that turtle populations are probably not interchangeable. A turtle born in the Atlantic, programmed to navigate using Atlantic magnetic signatures, likely cannot successfully navigate in the Pacific. Wire cages placed around turtle nests to protect them from predators may distort the local magnetic field and potentially interfere with the hatchling's ability to imprint correctly. And human activities that create magnetic anomalies, such as underwater electrical cables, offshore oil platforms, and metal seawalls, may disrupt the navigational abilities of turtles swimming nearby. Beyond magnetoreception, sea turtles also use other cues to navigate. They detect the orbital movement of ocean waves and can use this to orient themselves perpendicular to the shore, swimming away from land. They respond to visual cues, particularly the natural light horizon over the ocean, which guides hatchlings toward the sea when they first emerge from their nests. And they may use celestial cues, the position of the sun and stars, although the evidence for this is less clear. It's likely that sea turtles integrate information from multiple sources, using whichever cues are most useful in a given situation, creating a robust navigation system that works across a wide range of conditions. As you rest tonight, imagine the vast ocean from a sea turtle's perspective, not as a featureless expanse of blue, but as a landscape rich with invisible information. Magnetic contours rise and fall like underwater hills. Currents flow with predictable patterns. The angle of sunlight changes throughout the day, marking the passage of time and direction, and somewhere in the distance, perhaps weeks or months of swimming away, is home. A beach the turtle has never seen but knows intimately through the magnetic signature imprinted in its memory before it even left the egg. There is something deeply peaceful about this kind of navigation. It requires no maps, no technology, no conscious thought. The turtle simply swims, and the ocean itself provides all the guidance needed. Direction is not a question to be answered, but a feeling to be followed. Home is not a place to be found, but a magnetic truth waiting at the end of a long, patient journey. Sea turtles are air-breathing reptiles, which means they have lungs and must surface regularly to breathe. Yet they spend almost their entire lives underwater, sleeping, feeding, and traveling through the depths. This paradox requires an extraordinary set of adaptations that allow them to remain submerged for hours at a time without drowning. When a sea turtle is active, swimming, foraging, searching for food, it typically surfaces every few minutes to take a breath. A quick trip to the surface, a moment to fill the lungs, and then back down. But when a sea turtle is resting or sleeping, something remarkable happens. Its metabolism slows dramatically. Its heart rate decreases from around 60 beats per minute to just 1 beat every 9 minutes. Blood flow is redirected away from non-essential organs and focused on the brain and heart, and oxygen consumption drops to a fraction of its normal rate. In this state of deep rest, a sea turtle can remain underwater for 4 to 7 hours without needing to surface. The longest recorded submersion by a wild sea turtle was a loggerhead that stayed underwater for 7 hours while overwintering in cold Greek waters. Other studies have suggested that in certain circumstances, particularly during hibernation-like states in cold water, sea turtles might be able to remain submerged for days or even longer, though this is still being investigated. The key is that when a turtle is calm, unstressed, and at rest, its body becomes incredibly efficient at using the available oxygen. Every breath taken at the surface can fuel hours of quiet underwater repose. Several physiological adaptations make this possible. First, sea turtles have unusually large lungs for their body size. These lungs can store a significant volume of air, providing a reservoir of oxygen to draw upon during dives. Second, their blood contains high concentrations of hemoglobin and red blood cells, which increases the blood's capacity to carry and store oxygen. Third, their muscles contain high levels of myoglobin, a protein similar to hemoglobin that stores oxygen in muscle tissue. Together, these adaptations allow sea turtles to store oxygen in their blood, lungs, and muscles far more efficiently than most mammals. But storage is only part of the equation. Sea turtles also use oxygen far more conservatively than we do. Their metabolic rate is naturally lower than that of warm-blooded animals, and they have the ability to reduce it further during dives. They can also tolerate low oxygen levels in their blood and tissues far better than mammals can. While we would suffer serious brain damage after just a few minutes without oxygen, sea turtles have evolved mechanisms that protect their brains even during extended periods of hypoxia or low oxygen. Their neurons are more resistant to damage, and they can shift to anaerobic metabolism, producing energy without oxygen for short periods when necessary. There's even evidence that some sea turtles can supplement their oxygen supply through a process called cloacal respiration. The cloacal is an opening at the base of the tail used for excretion and reproduction, and it's lined with blood vessels. By pumping water in and out of the cloacal, sea turtles may be able to extract small amounts of dissolved oxygen directly from the water. This doesn't provide enough oxygen to sustain them long term, but it may help extend dive times slightly, particularly during hibernation in cold water when metabolism is extremely low. Diving depth varies considerably among sea turtle species. Most species typically dive to depths of 50 to 100 meters while foraging, though they're capable of going deeper. Loggerheads and green turtles have been recorded diving to nearly 300 meters, but the true champion of the deep is the leatherback. Leatherbacks routinely dive to depths of 1,000 meters or more, plunging down into the dark, cold mesopelagic zone where sunlight barely penetrates. The deepest recorded dive by a leatherback was over 1,200 meters, deeper than most submarines can go, into a realm of crushing pressure and near total darkness. They do this while searching for jellyfish, which migrate vertically through the water column, rising toward the surface at night to feed and sinking into the depths during the day to avoid predators. A leatherback dive is a study in efficiency. The turtle descends steadily, flippers tucked close to reduce drag, sinking through the blue toward the black. Its heart rate slows. Its body temperature, usually maintained several degrees above the surrounding water, begins to drop as it enters colder depths. It can stay down for more than 85 minutes, far longer than most other sea turtles. And when it finally rises back toward the surface, it ascends slowly, deliberately, conserving energy even on the return journey. Researchers initially wondered why leatherbacks dive so deep when jellyfish can also be found in shallower water. One hypothesis is that these deep dives serve as reconnaissance missions. By descending into the depths during the day, leatherbacks can locate where the jellyfish are concentrated. Then, when night falls and the jellyfish rise toward the surface, the turtle is already positioned in the right area to intercept them. It's a strategy that requires patience and planning, a willingness to invest time and energy in exploration for a later payoff, very much in keeping with the sea turtle's overall approach to life. It's worth noting that breath-holding ability varies with stress. A calm, resting sea turtle can hold its breath for hours, but a stressed turtle, one that's been caught in fishing gear or is fleeing from a predator, uses oxygen much more quickly. Its heart rate increases, its muscles work harder, and it may drown within minutes if it cannot reach the surface. This is one reason why fishing-related mortality is such a serious threat to sea turtles. Even if a turtle is caught in a net for what seems like a short time, the stress and exertion can deplete its oxygen reserves dangerously fast. As you drift towards sleep tonight, imagine the sensation of being a sea turtle at rest. You found a comfortable spot, perhaps wedged under a coral ledge or settled on the sandy bottom in a quiet cove. The water around you is still. You are still. Your body has shifted into a state of deep conservation. Each heartbeat is a distant, gentle thump, separated by long stretches of silence. The need to breathe, usually so insistent, has faded into the background. You are not holding your breath in the way we think of it, struggling against the urge to inhale. You are simply existing in a state where breath is not yet necessary. And the peace of it, the absolute stillness, is profound. Sea turtles sleep, but their sleep is different from ours. It's more like a resting state, a period of reduced activity and lowered metabolism. And remarkably, they do almost all of their sleeping underwater. When it's time to rest, sea turtles have several options depending on their location and species. In deep water, far from land, some turtles sleep while floating near the surface, drifting with the currents. Hatchlings and very young turtles often adopt this strategy, floating with their front flippers folded back over their shells, bobbing gently in the open ocean. It's a vulnerable position, but in the vastness of the open sea, there are few places to hide anyway, and staying near the surface allows for quick access to air. Adult turtles, particularly those in nearshore waters, often prefer to sleep on the bottom. Green turtles are frequently found sleeping under ledges in reefs and rocks, tucked into crevices where they're protected from currents and hidden from potential predators. Some wedge themselves under coral overhangs. Others rest in patches of seagrass, partially concealed by the swaying vegetation. Loggerheads and other species will sometimes simply settle onto the sandy bottom in a quiet spot, resting there like ancient stones. Regardless of where they sleep, sea turtles must periodically surface to breathe. This means their sleep is punctuated by brief awakenings every few hours when they rouse themselves, swim slowly to the surface, take a breath, and then return to their resting spot. These surfacing trips are so automatic, so much a part of the turtle's routine, that they likely require little conscious thought. The turtle simply drifts upward, breaks the surface for a few seconds, fills its lungs, and sinks back down into rest. Studies suggest that sea turtles rest for approximately 11 hours a day, though this can vary with the season, water temperature, and daylight patterns. In warmer months with longer days, turtles may be more active and rest less. In cooler months, particularly in temperate regions, they may enter a state of dormancy similar to hibernation, resting for even longer periods and barely moving at all. The diving response that allows turtles to remain underwater for so long is key to their sleeping behavior. When a turtle settles in to sleep, its heart rate drops dramatically. A green turtle's heart, which might beat around 60 times per minute while active, can slow to just one beat every 9 minutes during deep rest. This bradycardia, or slow heart rate, is part of a broader physiological shift. Blood flow is reduced to non-essential tissues, digestion slows or stops. The turtle's metabolic rate decreases to a fraction of its normal level. In this state, the oxygen stored in the turtle's blood, lungs, and muscles can last for hours. There's something profoundly calming about this kind of rest. It's not the fitful, dream-filled sleep of mammals. It's deeper than that, more elemental. A sea turtle in repose is not unconscious in the way we think of sleep. It's more like a state of suspended animation, a quieting of all systems to their lowest possible level while still maintaining life. The turtle is aware of its surroundings in a dim, distant way. If danger threatens, it can rouse itself and flee. But in the absence of threats, it simply exists in stillness, conserving energy, allowing its body to recover from the exertions of feeding and traveling. Green sea turtles, in particular, are known for their long sleep periods. In some locations, they're active primarily during the day, feeding on seagrass and algae in well-lit shallow waters, and then settling into sleep at night. In other locations, especially in areas with clear water and bright moonlight, their activity patterns may shift, and they might feed at night and rest during the day. The pattern adapts to local conditions, to the availability of food, to the presence of predators, to the amount of light penetrating the water. Sea turtles are not rigidly programmed. They're flexible, responsive to their environment, capable of adjusting their routines to suit local circumstances. Interestingly, the quality and duration of a sea turtle's rest can be affected by water temperature. In warmer water, their metabolism runs faster, and they use oxygen more quickly, which means they need to surface more often. In colder water, their metabolism slows even further, and they can remain submerged for longer periods. This is why sea turtles in temperate regions sometimes overwinter in relatively cool water, entering a state of dormancy where they barely move for months. They find a sheltered spot, settle in, and wait for warmer temperatures to return, their bodies ticking over at an absolute minimum, just enough to stay alive. As you rest tonight, think about what it would be like to sleep as a sea turtle sleeps, to find a comfortable spot in the soft sand at the bottom of a quiet bay, to settle there as the last light fades from the surface far above, to feel your heartbeat slow and slow until it's just a faint pulse in the background of your awareness, to know that you don't need to surface for hours yet, that there's nowhere you need to be. That rest is not an interruption, but a natural, essential part of your day. The water rocks you gently, the current whispers past, and you drift in that space between waking and sleeping, neither fully one nor the other, simply existing in the peace of the deep. Sea turtles spend nearly their entire lives in the ocean, but they maintain a crucial connection to land. Every few years, when the time is right, female sea turtles leave the water and return to the beach to lay their eggs. This nesting behavior is one of the most remarkable aspects of sea turtle biology, a journey that requires tremendous effort and exposes the turtles to dangers they normally avoid. Females do not nest every year. The process is too energetically demanding, too exhausting, to repeat annually. Most sea turtle species nest every 2 to 4 years, giving the females time to recover, to rebuild their energy reserves, to prepare for the next reproductive cycle. When a female is ready to nest, she embarks on what can be a long migration from her feeding grounds to her nesting beach. For some species and some populations, this migration is relatively short, just a few dozen kilometers. For others, it can span thousands of kilometers across entire ocean basins. And remarkably, most female sea turtles return to nest on or very near the beach where they themselves hatched decades earlier. This natal homing behavior is so precise that scientists can sometimes identify which nesting beach a turtle came from by analyzing its DNA and comparing it to the genetic signatures of different nesting populations. The magnetic imprinting we discussed earlier is thought to be the primary mechanism that allows females to find their way back, but other cues likely play a role as well, including the shape of the coastline, the characteristics of the water near shore, perhaps even the chemical signature of the beach itself. Mating occurs in the waters offshore from the nesting beach. Males, which never come onto land after leaving the beach as hatchlings, wait in these nearshore areas during the nesting season. A female may mate with multiple males, storing the sperm inside her body. Then, over the course of the nesting season, she will come ashore multiple times, typically 2 to 6 times depending on the species, each time laying a new clutch of eggs fertilized by the stored sperm. When a female is ready to lay her eggs, she waits for nightfall. Nesting at night is cooler, and it offers protection from the many predators that hunt during the day. The turtle swims close to shore, waits for the right wave, and then rides it up onto the beach. She drags herself forward using her front flippers, her massive weight, which is no burden in the water, suddenly pressing down on her. It's hard work. Each movement requires effort. She pauses frequently, breathing heavily, her body not designed for this terrestrial struggle. She crawls up the beach, moving beyond the high tide line to find a suitable nesting site. The location must be just right, far enough from the water that high tides won't wash away the nest, but not so far that the sand is too dry or too compacted. Once she finds a spot, she begins to dig. Using her front flippers, she clears away loose surface sand, creating a large body pit. Then, using her rear flippers with surprising delicacy and precision, she digs the egg chamber, a flask-shaped hole about 60 to 80 centimeters deep. When the chamber is ready, she begins laying her eggs. They emerge 2 or 3 at a time, soft-shelled and glistening, dropping gently into the chamber. A typical clutch contains between 50 and 200 eggs, depending on the species. The female enters a kind of trance during this process, her eyes often streaming with thick, mucus tears that help flush salt from her body and keep her eyes moist. These tears have given rise to the myth that turtles cry while nesting, though in reality, it's simply a biological function, a way of maintaining the delicate salt balance in her blood. After all the eggs are laid, the female carefully fills in the nest chamber, using her rear flippers to pack sand down over the eggs. Then she disguises the nest, throwing sand in all directions with her front flippers to hide the location from predators. Finally exhausted, she drags herself back down the beach and into the water. The entire process, from emerging onto the beach to returning to the sea, typically takes 1 to 3 hours. Over the course of a single nesting season, a female might produce 400 eggs or more spread across multiple nests. It's an enormous investment of time, energy, and resources. After the season ends, she will return to her feeding grounds, often hundreds or thousands of kilometers away, and spend the next few years rebuilding her strength. Males, for their part, may return to the breeding grounds more frequently, sometimes annually, since their investment is far less. The eggs incubate in the warm sand for about 50 to 70 days, depending on the species and temperature. During this time, the developing embryos are vulnerable to many threats. Predators like crabs, monitor lizards, foxes, raccoons, and wild dogs dig up nests and consume the eggs. Extreme heat can kill embryos. Heavy rains or storm surges can flood nests and drown the developing turtles. And one particularly fascinating aspect of sea turtle reproduction is that the sex of the hatchlings is determined not by genetics but by temperature. This is called temperature-dependent sex determination. During the middle third of the incubation period, when the embryos are developing their reproductive organs, the temperature of the sand determines whether they will become male or female. Cooler temperatures, generally below about 28 degrees Celsius, produce mostly males. Warmer temperatures, above about 31 degrees Celsius, produce mostly females. Temperatures in between result in a mix. This system has worked well for sea turtles for millions of years, but it's now creating a potential crisis. As global temperatures rise and nesting beaches warm, many nests are producing almost entirely female hatchlings. In some populations, studies have found that 90% or more of juveniles are female. This skewed sex ratio could make it difficult for populations to reproduce effectively in the future, as there simply won't be enough males to fertilize all the females' eggs. After about 2 months in the sand, the eggs begin to hatch. The hatchlings use a small temporary tooth on their snouts, called a caruncle, to break through their eggshells. Once free, they begin scrambling upward through the sand, working together to dig toward the surface. This coordinated effort is remarkable. If only one hatchling tried to dig out alone, it likely wouldn't succeed. But when dozens work together, they can excavate a tunnel through the sand, taking turns at the front, pushing sand back toward the turtles behind them, slowly making progress toward the air and light above. When they're close to the surface, they pause. They wait, sensing the temperature of the sand, waiting for it to cool, which indicates night has fallen. Emerging at night reduces the risk of overheating and dehydration, and it means fewer predators will be active on the beach. When the time is right, they break through the surface en masse in what's called a boil, the sand suddenly erupting as dozens of tiny turtles pour out. And then begins one of nature's most perilous journeys, the race to the sea. A sea turtle hatchling is almost impossibly small and vulnerable. Depending on the species, it measures between 5 and 7 centimeters long and weighs around 20 to 50 grams, lighter than a golf ball. It has soft skin, a barely calcified shell, and almost no defenses. And yet, the moment it emerges from the nest, it must immediately embark on a journey that will determine whether it lives or dies. The hatchlings erupt from the sand together, a boiling mass of flippers and shells, and immediately begin scrambling toward the water. They orient themselves using visual cues, instinctively moving away from the dark silhouette of the dunes and toward the brightest horizon, which under natural conditions is the sky over the ocean, illuminated by moonlight and starlight reflected off the water's surface. They also detect the slope of the beach and the white crests of breaking waves, using these cues to maintain their heading toward the surf. The crawl across the beach, which may be anywhere from a few meters to over 50 meters depending on where the nest was located, is fraught with danger. Ghost crabs patrol the sand, attacking hatchlings and dragging them down into their burrows. Fire ants, especially in areas where these invasive insects have become established, swarm emerging hatchlings, biting them so many times that the turtles go into shock and cannot continue. Raccoons, foxes, dogs, and other terrestrial predators patrol nesting beaches during hatching season, knowing this is an easy time to find prey. Birds circle overhead, swooping down to snatch hatchlings in their beaks. Obstacles on the beach pose additional challenges. Beach furniture left out overnight, holes dug in the sand, tire tracks from vehicles driving on the beach, all of these can trap or disorient hatchlings. A turtle that falls into a footprint may struggle to climb out. A turtle that encounters a chair leg may try to go around it and lose its bearings. Every delay increases the chance that a predator will find it. But perhaps the greatest modern threat to hatchlings is artificial light. Coastal development has brought streetlights, porch lights, building lights, and the glow of cities close to many nesting beaches. These lights are often much brighter than the natural light horizon over the ocean, and hatchlings, following their instinct to move toward the brightest area, head inland instead of toward the water. Disoriented hatchlings wander into roads, parking lots, and landscaping. They become exhausted. They dehydrate. Many die without ever reaching the sea. Even if a hatchling successfully navigates the beach and reaches the surf, the journey is far from over. As the turtle enters the water, it begins what's called a swimming frenzy, a period of nearly continuous frantic swimming that can last for 24 to 48 hours or more. The hatchling paddles with all its strength, using its tiny flippers to propel itself away from shore and into deeper water. It doesn't eat during this time. It's fueled entirely by the remnants of its egg yolk, the last gift from its mother, absorbed into its body before hatching. The purpose of the swimming frenzy is to get the hatchling offshore as quickly as possible, away from the nearshore zone, where predation pressure is highest. In shallow coastal waters, fish wait in ambush. Snappers, jacks, groupers, and many other species target the hatchlings as they enter the sea. The turtles are bite-sized morsels, soft and easy to swallow, and countless hatchlings are eaten within seconds or minutes of entering the water. Birds continue to hunt them from above. Even during the frenzy swim, the hatchlings are vulnerable. But if a hatchling can survive those first desperate hours and reach the relative safety of deeper water, its chances improve. Young sea turtles, particularly loggerheads and green turtles, often find shelter in floating mats of sargassum seaweed, a golden-brown algae that drifts through the ocean in vast rafts, particularly in areas like the Sargasso Sea in the Atlantic. These sargassum mats provide cover from predators and are rich with small animals, crustaceans, mollusks, fish larvae, that the young turtles can eat. For years, the hatchlings may drift with these floating ecosystems, growing slowly, learning to forage, developing the skills they'll need to survive. This period of a sea turtle's life, from when it leaves the nesting beach until it returns to nearshore waters as a juvenile, is called the lost years. Scientists know very little about where most sea turtles go or what they do during this time. The turtles are too small to track effectively with satellite tags, and they're spread across vast expanses of open ocean. Bits of information have been pieced together from occasional sightings, from turtles washing up on beaches, from genetic studies, but huge gaps remain. It's as if the turtles disappear into the blue and then reappear years later, larger and more capable, having survived challenges we can only guess at. The survival statistics are sobering. It's estimated that only 1 in 1,000 hatchlings survives to adulthood. Some estimates suggest it could be as low as 1 in 10,000. This means that from a typical clutch of 100 eggs, if everything goes well, perhaps 0 or 1 turtle will live long enough to reproduce. These odds seem impossibly harsh, yet they're what sea turtles have faced for millions of years. The strategy is to produce vast numbers of offspring, knowing that only a tiny fraction will make it. But that fraction will be enough to maintain the population. This is why the loss of even a few adult breeding females can have such a significant impact on sea turtle populations. It takes decades and immense reproductive investment to produce a single adult turtle. Lose that adult and you've lost potentially thousands of eggs over its lifetime, and perhaps dozens of future adults that might have come from those eggs. It's a stark reminder of how precarious these ancient species have become, and why conservation efforts focused on protecting adults and nesting beaches are so critical. As you rest tonight, try not to think too hard about the challenges facing these tiny hatchlings. Instead, focus on the ones who make it, the ones who scramble across the beach under a full moon, who dive into the first wave, who swim with every ounce of strength they possess toward the open ocean, the ones who find a sargassum mat and nestle into its golden fronds, the ones who against all odds survive those lost years and grow into juveniles, then adults. They are the proof that hope endures, that life finds a way, that even in the face of overwhelming challenges, persistence pays off. If you're a sea turtle who has beaten the odds and survived your vulnerable hatchling years, congratulations, you've accomplished something extraordinary. But your journey to adulthood is far from over. In fact, it's really just beginning. Sea turtles grow slowly, very slowly. While a human reaches adulthood in roughly 18 years, most sea turtles require between 20 and 30 years to reach sexual maturity, the age at which they're able to reproduce. Some species and populations take even longer. Leatherbacks may mature slightly faster, in as little as 15 to 20 years under ideal conditions. Green turtles, particularly those in colder waters where growth is slower, may not mature until they're 35 to 40 years old. This prolonged juvenile period is spent gradually growing larger, learning the ocean's rhythms, and building the energy reserves necessary for reproduction. Juvenile sea turtles often move to specific coastal feeding grounds where food is abundant and relatively easy to obtain. For green turtles, this might mean finding a seagrass meadow where they can graze peacefully for years. For loggerheads, it might be a rocky area rich in crabs and shellfish. These coastal feeding grounds are critical habitat, and young turtles may remain there for years or even decades, slowly bulking up. The rate of growth depends on many factors: food availability, water temperature, individual health, and even genetics. In warm, productive waters with plenty of food, turtles grow faster. In cold waters, or in areas where food is scarce, growth slows. It's not unusual for two turtles of the same age to be very different sizes, depending on where they've been living and how well they've been eating. Eventually, when a turtle has reached a certain size and built up sufficient energy reserves, it reaches sexual maturity. This is a milestone, but not an obvious one. There's no external change that signals maturity. The turtle simply one day possesses functional reproductive organs and the physiological readiness to migrate to breeding grounds. For females, this means beginning the preparation for that long journey back to the nesting beach. For males, it means joining the congregation of breeding males waiting in the waters offshore. Once mature, sea turtles can remain reproductively active for many years, possibly decades. A female might nest successfully for 20 or 30 years, producing thousands of eggs during her lifetime. A male might fertilize the eggs of dozens or even hundreds of females over the same period. This extended reproductive lifespan helps offset the low survival rate of hatchlings. Even if only one egg in 1,000 produces an adult, if that adult can produce thousands of eggs over its lifetime, the population can remain stable or even grow. So how long do sea turtles live? This is surprisingly difficult to determine. There's no reliable way to age a sea turtle, just by looking at it once it's an adult. Growth rings in bones can provide some information, but they're not as clear-cut as tree rings, and they require dissection, which obviously isn't practical for living, endangered turtles. Most of our estimates come from long-term studies where individual turtles have been tagged and monitored over decades. What we do know is that sea turtles are long-lived. Most species probably live between 50 and 100 years, possibly longer. The oldest reliably documented sea turtle was a green turtle named Myrtle, who has been living at the New England Aquarium since 1970. She's estimated to be around 90 years old as of this writing and is still going strong. There are unverified stories of sea turtles living well over a century, and given their slow metabolism and the long lives of other large reptiles like tortoises and crocodiles, it seems entirely plausible that some individuals could reach 150 years or more. This longevity is part of what makes sea turtles so remarkable. They are truly creatures of deep time, living their lives on a scale that dwarfs our own. A sea turtle born during the First World War might still be swimming in the ocean today. A turtle that nested on a beach before humans landed on the moon might return to that same beach to nest again this year. They carry the ocean's memory in a very literal sense, having witnessed decades or even a century of change in the marine environment. Their slow life history, the long time to maturity, the extended lifespan is an evolutionary strategy suited to a stable environment. For millions of years, the ocean was relatively consistent from the perspective of a sea turtle's lifespan. Conditions changed gradually over centuries and millennia, and sea turtles could adapt. But human activities have compressed tremendous change into just a few decades, and sea turtles' slow generation times make it difficult for them to adapt quickly. A population that's declining might not show the full effects for decades, because turtles that hatched 20 or 30 years ago before the population began to decline are only now reaching maturity. And conservation efforts, while crucial, will also take decades to show their full benefit, as the hatchlings protected today won't reproduce until the 2040s or 2050s. This long view is humbling. It reminds us that conservation is not a short-term project. It's a commitment that spans generations, both theirs and ours. Protecting sea turtles today is an investment in a future we might not live to see. An act of faith that the world 100 years from now will still have these gentle mariners gliding through its seas. As you drift towards sleep, imagine the arc of a sea turtle's life, hatching on a moonlit beach, the desperate scramble to the sea, years drifting in the open ocean, carried by currents, sheltered by floating seaweed, finding a coastal feeding ground, and settling in, growing slowly, patiently, year after year, reaching maturity, and joining the great migrations, returning to nest again and again, over decades. And finally old and enormous, still swimming, still diving, still living that slow, deliberate life that has sustained sea turtles for over 100 million years. There is a peace in that kind of existence, a life lived without hurry, a journey measured not in days or months but in decades, where patience is not a virtue but simply the way things are. Sea turtles are not hunters in the way we usually think of predators. They don't chase down prey. They don't hunt in packs. They are, for the most part, patient foragers, moving slowly through their environment and taking advantage of whatever food sources they encounter. But while they share this general approach, different species have specialized in different diets, each one adapted to exploit a particular niche in the ocean's vast buffet. Green sea turtles are the only primarily herbivorous sea turtle species. Adult greens are essentially underwater lawnmowers, grazing on seagrasses and algae. They spend hours each day methodically cropping seagrass blades, chewing them with powerful jaws lined with serrated ridges that act like teeth. This diet is low in nutrients, which means green turtles need to eat a lot of it. They graze almost continuously when in their feeding grounds, moving slowly across seagrass meadows like cattle in a pasture, heads down focused on the task of consuming enough vegetation to fuel their large bodies. Interestingly, green turtle hatchlings and juveniles are not herbivorous. Young green turtles are omnivores, eating jellyfish, small fish, crustaceans, and other animal matter during their pelagic phase. It's only when they recruit to coastal feeding grounds, usually after a few years drifting in the open ocean, that they transition to a primarily plant-based diet. Scientists aren't entirely sure why this dietary shift occurs. It may be related to the availability of food in different habitats. It may be related to changes in their digestive system as they mature. Whatever the reason, it represents a significant lifestyle change, turning young carnivores into adult herbivores. The role green turtles play in maintaining healthy seagrass beds cannot be overstated. Like grazing on terrestrial grasslands, seagrass cropping by green turtles keeps the grass short, dense, and healthy. Ungrazed seagrass can become overgrown, blocking light from reaching the base of the plant and reducing overall productivity. The turtles' grazing stimulates new growth, increases nutrient cycling, and helps maintain the diverse community of organisms that depend on seagrass habitat. In areas where green turtle populations have declined, scientists have observed corresponding declines in seagrass health, highlighting just how important these turtles are to their ecosystems. Loggerhead sea turtles, by contrast, are carnivores with a preference for hard-shelled prey. They have massive, powerful jaws capable of crushing conch, whelks, horseshoe crabs, and other mollusks and crustaceans that other predators can't easily access. A loggerhead will swim along the bottom, using its acute sense of smell to locate prey buried in the sand. When it finds something, it digs it out and crushes it, shell and all, swallowing the meat, and sometimes passing the shell fragments through its digestive system. They'll also eat sponges, jellyfish, fish, and various other invertebrates, but their specialty is crunching through tough armor to get at the soft tissues inside. Hawksbill sea turtles have perhaps the most specialized diet of all. They eat sponges, lots of them, and little else. An adult hawksbill can consume over 500 kilograms of sponges per year. They use their narrow pointed beaks to probe into coral reef crevices where sponges grow, tearing pieces free and swallowing them. Many of the sponges hawksbills prefer contain compounds that are toxic or unpalatable to most other animals, but hawksbills have evolved tolerance to these toxins. By feeding on sponges, hawksbills help control sponge populations on reefs. Without this grazing pressure, sponges can overgrow corals and other reef organisms, reducing diversity. Hawksbills are thus important for maintaining the balance of reef ecosystems. Leatherback sea turtles are the ocean's most dedicated jellyfish eaters. Their entire biology is geared toward finding and consuming these gelatinous drifters. Leatherbacks have delicate scissor-like jaws and a throat lined with backward-pointing spines that help them swallow slippery jellyfish without letting them escape. They can eat enormous quantities, with some estimates suggesting a large leatherback might consume its own body weight in jellyfish in a single day during peak feeding periods. They target large jellyfish species, including lion's mane jellyfish in cold northern waters and massive barrel jellyfish. They also eat salps, which are gelatinous creatures related to tunicates. This diet creates a challenge though. Jellyfish are mostly water, often 95% or more, which means they're not very nutritious. To get enough energy, leatherbacks have to eat vast quantities, which requires finding dense aggregations of jellyfish. This is part of why leatherbacks range so widely and dive so deep, constantly searching for jellyfish blooms. It's also why leatherbacks are particularly vulnerable to plastic pollution. A plastic bag floating in the water looks remarkably similar to a jellyfish, and leatherbacks frequently ingest plastic debris. Even a single bag can block their digestive system and lead to starvation. Olive Ridley and Kemp's Ridley sea turtles are generalists, eating a varied diet that includes jellyfish, salps, crabs, shrimp, snails, fish, sea urchins, and occasionally vegetation. They forage both in the water column and on the bottom, opportunistically taking advantage of whatever prey is most abundant. This dietary flexibility likely contributes to their ability to occupy a range of habitats from coastal waters to the open ocean. Flatback sea turtles, the least studied species, appear to be carnivorous, feeding primarily on soft-bodied invertebrates like sea cucumbers, jellyfish, and soft corals. They stay in relatively shallow coastal waters around Australia, and their feeding habits are adapted to the specific prey communities found in those habitats. Watching a sea turtle feed is a study in patience. There's no frenzy, no urgent striking at prey. A green turtle grazing on seagrass moves with deliberate slowness, biting off a mouthful, chewing methodically, then moving forward slightly to the next bite. A loggerhead, cracking open a conch, does so carefully, positioning the shell just right in its jaws before applying crushing pressure. Even leatherbacks, despite needing to consume large quantities of jellyfish, don't rush. They swim slowly through jellyfish aggregations, mouths open, capturing one at a time, swallowing, moving to the next. This unhurried approach to feeding reflects the sea turtle's overall metabolic efficiency. They don't need to eat as frequently as warm-blooded animals of similar size. A few hours of good foraging can sustain a turtle for days, and when food is scarce, they can reduce their activity level and weight, living off stored energy until conditions improve. Patience, once again, is not just a choice but a fundamental aspect of their biology. As you settle into rest tonight, imagine yourself grazing peacefully in an underwater meadow. The seagrass sways gently around you, its blades catching the filtered sunlight that reaches this depth. You move slowly, almost meditatively, from one patch to the next. There's no hurry. The ocean is vast and food is plentiful. Each bite is deliberate, each movement purposeful but unhurried. You are a green turtle, an ancient herbivore in a timeless ritual, and in this moment, all is well. One of the most endearing qualities of sea turtles is their gentle, non-aggressive nature. Despite their size, which in the case of leatherbacks can exceed that of an adult human, sea turtles pose essentially no threat to people. They are not territorial. They do not attack. They simply go about their business, largely indifferent to the presence of other creatures unless those creatures pose an obvious threat. Divers and snorkelers who encounter sea turtles in the wild often describe the experience as magical. The turtle doesn't flee in panic. It doesn't act defensively. It often simply continues doing whatever it was doing, grazing on seagrass or resting under a ledge, allowing humans to observe from a respectful distance. If approached too closely or touched, which should never be done, a turtle might swim away, but even this retreat is usually calm, not frantic. They exude a sense of quiet confidence, as if they know they've been around far longer than we have and will likely be around long after we're gone. Sea turtles are largely solitary animals. Unlike some marine mammals that live in complex social groups, sea turtles spend most of their lives alone. They don't form lasting pair bonds. They don't cooperate in hunting or raising young. After mating, males and females go their separate ways. After laying her eggs, a mother turtle returns to the sea and never interacts with her offspring. The hatchlings are entirely on their own from the moment they emerge from the sand. There are exceptions to this solitary lifestyle. During the breeding season, large numbers of males may congregate in the waters near nesting beaches, and multiple males may compete to mate with a single female. Some species exhibit erebidas, synchronized mass nesting events where thousands of females come ashore together over just a few nights, and juvenile turtles sometimes aggregate in productive feeding areas where food is abundant. But these gatherings are temporary and based on resource availability rather than social bonds. This lack of complex social behavior means that sea turtles don't experience the social stresses that many other animals face. There's no jockeying for dominance within a pod, no complex hierarchies to navigate, no need to maintain alliances or remember grudges. Each turtle moves through the ocean as an independent entity, focused on its own survival and eventually its own reproduction. There's a simplicity to this existence, a lack of drama that feels inherently peaceful. When sea turtles do encounter each other, interactions are usually brief and unremarkable. Two green turtles grazing in the same seagrass meadow might feed a few meters apart without acknowledging each other's presence. A loggerhead might swim past another loggerhead without any apparent communication. In aquarium settings, Where multiple turtles are housed together, they often ignore each other entirely, each one occupying its own space, its own routine, coexisting but not truly interacting. Sea turtles don't vocalize. They have no calls or songs to communicate with. They don't engage in complex displays or signals. Their communication, to the extent that it exists, is limited to simple tactile and visual cues during mating and perhaps some chemical communication through pheromones, though this has not been extensively studied. For the most part, sea turtles move through a quiet world, their own presence marked only by the gentle swish of their flippers and the bubbles that trail behind them when they exhale. This quietness extends to their impact on their environment. Sea turtles are not destructive. They don't tear up the ocean floor like some bottom-feeding fish. They don't damage reefs, except in the specific case of hawksbills controlling sponge growth, which is actually beneficial. Green turtles maintain seagrass health rather than degrading it. Even their nesting behavior, while it does disturb beach sand, actually benefits coastal ecosystems. When turtles lay eggs, some don't hatch, and these serve as nutrients enriching the sand. When hatchlings emerge, the scramble aerates the sand. Turtle nesting beaches tend to be healthier, more dynamic ecosystems than beaches without nesting activity. There's something deeply calming about observing a creature that simply exists without conflict, without aggression, without the need to dominate or control. Sea turtles have found their niche in the ocean, and they fill it with grace and patience. They take what they need, and no more. They harm nothing that doesn't serve as food. They move through the world, leaving barely a trace beyond the eggs they deposit once every few years, and the seagrass they keep trimmed, and the sponges they prevent from overgrowing the reefs. If we were to choose an ambassador for peace among ocean creatures, sea turtles would be strong candidates. They embody a kind of passive existence, not passive in the sense of weakness, but passive in the sense of not forcing their will upon the world. They adapt to conditions rather than trying to change them. They endure rather than resist, and in that endurance, in that patient adaptation, there is a strength that has allowed them to outlast countless other species that were faster, fiercer, more aggressive. As you sink deeper into rest, imagine what it would be like to live without conflict, to move through your days encountering others of your kind with neither friendship nor hostility, just quiet coexistence. To have no enemies you need to watch for, no rivals you need to outcompete, no social obligations to fulfill, just the ocean, and you, and the simple rhythms of feeding, breathing, resting, and traveling. There is freedom in that simplicity, a peace that comes from having nothing to prove and nowhere to be but exactly where you are. The story of sea turtles in the modern world is not an entirely peaceful one. These ancient mariners, having survived for over 100 million years through mass extinctions and dramatic environmental changes, now face perhaps their most serious threat. All 7 species of sea turtle are listed as either threatened, endangered, or vulnerable by conservation organizations. Some populations are more critically imperiled than others. The Kemp's Ridley, which once nested in massive arabidas involving tens of thousands of turtles, saw its population crash to just a few hundred nesting females by the mid-20th century. Through intensive conservation efforts, the population has recovered somewhat, but it remains the most endangered sea turtle species. Hawksbills, hunted nearly to extinction for their beautiful shells, remain critically endangered across much of their range. Even relatively abundant species like loggerheads face declining populations in many areas. The threats sea turtles face are numerous and interconnected. Perhaps the most significant is incidental capture in fishing gear, a problem known as bycatch. Sea turtles breathe air, which means they must surface regularly. If a turtle gets caught in a fishing net and cannot reach the surface, it will drown. Thousands of turtles die this way every year, tangled in shrimp trawl nets, long-line hooks, gill nets, and various other types of fishing gear. In response to this, many countries have implemented turtle excluder devices, or TEDs, in shrimp nets. These are escape hatches that allow turtles and other large animals to get out while retaining the catch. When properly used, TEDs are highly effective, but enforcement and compliance remain challenges in many areas. Nesting beach degradation is another major threat. Coastal development brings lights, buildings, and human activity to beaches that were once dark and quiet. Artificial lights disorient hatchlings, leading them away from the sea. Beach armoring, the construction of seawalls and rock jetties, can prevent turtles from accessing nesting sites or trap hatchlings behind barriers. Beach driving crushes nests and compacts sand, making it harder for females to dig and for hatchlings to emerge. Beach nourishment projects, which pump sand onto eroding beaches, can cover existing nests or create unsuitable nesting conditions. Pollution takes many forms. Sea turtles frequently ingest plastic debris, mistaking bags for jellyfish or eating small plastic fragments mixed in with their food. Plastics can block digestive systems, leading to starvation. Chemical pollutants accumulate in turtle tissues, potentially affecting their health and reproduction. Oil spills coat turtles, damaging their shells and compromising their ability to regulate buoyancy and temperature. Climate change presents an existential threat on multiple fronts. Rising temperatures are skewing hatchling sex ratios toward females, which could make it difficult for populations to reproduce effectively. Rising sea levels inundate nesting beaches, reducing available habitat. Stronger storms erode beaches and flood nests. Ocean acidification and coral bleaching degrade the reef systems that hawksbills depend on. Shifts in ocean currents and temperature may disrupt the distribution of prey species, forcing turtles to alter their migration patterns or travel farther to find food. Egg poaching and the harvest of adults for meat, leather, and shells remain problems in some parts of the world, though legal protections have reduced these threats compared to historical levels. Still, illegal take continues, particularly in areas with limited enforcement capacity or where sea turtles are viewed as a traditional resource. These threats are daunting. It would be easy to despair, but there are reasons for hope. Conservation efforts have shown that sea turtle populations can recover when given protection and proper management. In Florida, loggerhead nesting numbers have increased significantly due to beach protection measures by catch reduction and nest monitoring. In areas where sea turtle eggs were once heavily poached, community-based conservation programs have engaged local people in protection efforts, providing alternative livelihoods and education. Satellite tracking has allowed scientists to identify critical habitat for sea turtles, leading to the designation of marine protected areas where threats are minimized. The Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species, or CITE, has banned international trade in sea turtles and their products, reducing market-driven hunting. Many countries have enacted strong legal protections for sea turtles, making it illegal to harm, harass, or collect them. Turtle hospitals and rehabilitation centers care for injured turtles, treating everything from boat strike injuries to tumors to entanglement wounds, and releasing hundreds of animals back into the wild each year. Perhaps most importantly, public awareness of sea turtles and their plight has grown tremendously. Where sea turtles were once viewed primarily as a resource to be exploited, they're now widely recognized as charismatic, ecologically important species worthy of protection. Ecotourism focused on sea turtles, whether it's guided nesting tours or snorkeling trips to sea turtles feeding, has created economic incentives for conservation. Communities that once hunted turtles now protect them, recognizing that living turtles can provide sustained income through tourism while dead turtles provide only a one-time benefit. The challenges remain severe. Sea turtles cannot adapt as quickly as the world is changing around them. Their long generation times mean that declines can continue for decades even after threats are reduced. But the trajectory, at least in some areas, is moving in the right direction. Populations that were plummeting are now stabilizing or even increasing. Nesting beaches that were abandoned are being recolonized. Hatchling survival is improving where nests are protected and lights are managed. Sea turtles have survived for over 100 million years. They've endured asteroid impacts, ice ages, and the complete reorganization of the planet's ecosystems. They possess a resilience born of deep time, an ability to persist that has been proven again and again across eons. If we can give them the space, the protection, and the clean oceans they need, there is every reason to believe they will endure for another 100 million years. As you rest tonight, hold on to that hope. Think not about the threats, but about the possibilities. Imagine a future where every beach is safe for nesting, where oceans are clean and full of life, where sea turtles swim freely, their populations stable, their ancient rhythms undisturbed. It's a future worth working toward, worth protecting, worth believing in. And in that belief, in that vision of what could be, there is a deep and abiding peace. The night is deep now. The hours have passed like a gentle current, carrying you through the lives and mysteries of sea turtles. You've learned of their ancient origins, their patient migrations, their remarkable adaptations, You followed hatchlings scrambling toward the sea, and watched adults gliding through blue water. You've witnessed the slow arc of their lives, from egg to ancient elder, each stage marked by challenges met and overcome through endurance and patience. Sea turtles remind us that not everything moves quickly, that some journeys take decades. That wisdom comes from patient observation, from millions of years of gradual refinement. They show us that survival doesn't always mean being the fastest or the strongest. Sometimes it means being the most adaptable, the most patient, the most persistent. When you watch a sea turtle swimming, there's a grace to it that transcends words. The slow, powerful strokes of its flippers propelling it forward, the way it glides effortlessly through the water, weightless and serene. The occasional rise to the surface for a breath, a moment in the light, and then the descent back into the quiet blue. It moves with purpose but without urgency, covering vast distances one steady stroke at a time. Tonight as you rest, you are like a sea turtle drifting in calm water. There is nowhere you need to be, no destination you must reach. You can simply exist in this moment, breathing slowly, feeling the gentle support of the water all around you. Your heartbeat has slowed, like a turtle's heart in deep rest, one beat every 9 minutes, a distant pulse marking time but not demanding it. You are floating in the vast ocean of sleep, and it holds you safely. The currents rock you gently, the water whispers its ancient songs, and somewhere nearby, perhaps just beneath the surface, a sea turtle glides past, its dark shape a shadow against the deeper blue. It doesn't notice you. It has no need to. It simply continues on its way, as it has continued for 100 million years, as it will continue for 100 million more. Let yourself sink a little deeper now. Feel the weight of your body settling like a turtle finding a comfortable spot on the sandy bottom. Your breathing is slow and steady. Your thoughts are drifting, disconnected, like pieces of kelp floating in the current. There is nothing to hold on to, nothing to figure out, just the soft, encompassing peace of the deep. The sea turtles swim on through the night, through the centuries, through the great sweep of time. And you, for this brief moment, swim with them, timeless, weightless, at peace. Good night, rest well, let the ocean carry you home. If you're still awake, that's okay. The journey continues. You can simply close your eyes and let the gentle rhythm of the waves carry you deeper into rest. The sea turtles will be there, gliding through the blue, patient and eternal, whenever you're ready to join them again. And if these stories have brought you peace, if they've helped you find that quiet place where sleep begins, consider sharing this with others who might need the same calm. The more people who know about sea turtles, about their challenges and their grace, the better their chances of swimming through another 100 million years. For now though, just rest, let go, drift. The tide is gentle tonight, and you are safe in its embrace. Sleep well.